and I want to talk to you about Mayor of Kingston. I'm only through the first half of season one, but I wanted to give you some first impressions, right? I wanted to give you a take on whether or not I think that this could be a show for you. Like if you enjoyed Tulsa King, would you enjoy Kingston? Uh, you like Sopranos, Boardwalk Empire, Yellowstone. This is the same creative group, right? Taylor Sheridan is possibly the most talented writer right now, especially when it comes to crime drama. He understands television. He understands world building. He understands dynamic characters. He comes up with interesting scenarios that make you think about things, right? So obviously with Tulsa King, you're immersed with like, what if the mafiosos of New York are thrust into cowboy territory, right? Well, here we have 7 prisons in like a 10-mile radius in Michigan. It's basically like a prison district. And how are you going to manage a community and society around that? And I will get into some of my personal thoughts at the end of the video, but let me tell you what, if you enjoyed the aforementioned shows, especially note that this show is definitely graphic, right? As far as nudity, profanity, and some violence, whereas Tulsa King felt like it could have been on network television. I don't have network TV, so I don't know, but it is on Paramount. This is not family friendly. It's definitely not on television. It's more like an HBO type of product. With that said, they bring in Jeremy Renner, obviously Hawkeye, Hurt Locker, many, many films, and an incredible actor, and a perfect choice for someone who looks like the gritty Midwestern guy that needs to be in charge of this show. And the show centers around the concept that there is a mayor. And think of a mafioso type, but that is not in charge of anything. Think of it as like an ambassador in this prison situation where you have 20,000 people who are in some sort of prison and the impact around it in this community, right? There's no hope. Crime is out of control. So you have gangs behind the walls and on the streets. You have all the race conflicts, right? So white, black, Hispanic, it's all there. The conflict with the police is just so heightened. And the episode 1 lays the groundwork so well. They bring in Kyle Chandler, who is probably one of the more underrated character actors of this generation. Obviously, from Godzilla to Argo to Super 8, you've seen this guy. You may not know the name. You've seen the guy. He is super solid and very good. And it's set up pretty well. And what they did with the writing was so clever. It's like, because they go along for quite a while before they get to this question of like, well, why do they call him the mayor? Why is it a mayor? Because he's not the actual mayor. And it's a stripper scene with her John where they talk about that. And it's really, really done well. Like, it's very clever to just explain it and say, this is how it works. Dianne Wiest plays the matriarch, their mom, and because it's like it's a set of 3 brothers, right? Kyle Chandler's character is the oldest one. Jeremy Renner's character is the middle son named Mike. He becomes the main character, and then there's a younger son. And the family's there, and Dianne Wiest plays the mom, which, by the way, I remember meeting Dianne Wiest on the set of Edward Scissorhands, and just a completely sweet lady at the time. The show is actually superior to Tulsa King in its world building. You very quickly get introduced, and probably one of the best characters of the show, he's the fan favorite of the show, I'm sure, is Bunny, who's basically the drug dealer. And Bunny has not only great lines, but he always wears like this certain coat, and why he wears the coat, and why he won't leave the property. And Bunny is fantastic. And he and Mike basically are about the only friend. Like Mike can know he's got it worked out with Bunny, and it kind of keeps working itself through the season. You can see him becoming Mike's confidant. Mike's someone Mike knows he can trust Bunny because Bunny's going to be straight with him. He'll know where he stands. But there's tons of dynamics within the police force, the brother's wife, the impact there with having a family, people who want to leave this community, who can't leave the community. And Mike being thrust into this world, very Godfather, right? I didn't want to be a part of all this. I'm trying to find ways out. And then, constantly being thrown into these different scenarios. I will say they also have like that Sopranos thing. Like, remember with Tony and the birds in the pool? They have that with Mike and a bear. And I think this is interesting because you find, and they do it again with another scene with the prisoners and dogs. When Taylor writes some of these scenes, he's creating very subconscious metaphor and connections. And it kind of drives itself to something that gets very on the nose. So obviously the more primitive viewer at home will get it, but it starts very subtle before it starts driving home into something that's really on the nose. Fantastically well-developed, executed, immersive film. You feel like you're in this environment. And on a personal note, it just makes me angry. It just makes me frustrating to wonder, like, how many mayors are actually out there. I don't blame the police. I actually blame the politicians that kind of prevent all of this stuff from being dealt with and reforming it and not treating these people like not even a second class. Like, they're not even worth anything. Like, they make this kind of mistake. They have the scenes where the police will frame them so they can execute them. There's discussions and agreements over, is it even worth trying to go through this process? How they cut the deals, way they sell their soul. It is really nauseating to think that this is actually how things work. And if that is the case, not only shame on us, we should be outraged and ready to remove people if that's how things are operating. Like, it's so gross to think that we treat other humans on this level. I don't care what kind of mistakes they've made. And there's scenes where violence breaks out, and there are scenes where they let it happen, and there's scenes where they want to get in and break it up. And I'm like, it really is like a constant moral conundrum. And Dianne Wiest's character, this mom, plays this professor, and she teaches prisoners and things like that. But she is the lefty moral arbiter of all this. She's the one that's dropping, really heavy-handed conversations or speeches about slavery and race and history and these kinds of things. But I will say they're not out of place with your thoughts of how this world has been constructed. Like, it's not as much about, the whole show is a lecture, but not a lecture from a political left or right, just a political, is this who we want to be? Is this how we want crime to be dealt with? Do we want to put our police in this situation, prison guards in this situation, the people that are in this environment? There's a conversation that Bunny has about I don't know what everybody expects. Like, this is it. They're dead. They're dead or they're prisoners. There's really not a lot of options, and it's really done well. This show has really surprised me. It's a shame it's taken me this long to get to it. Kudos to Mads from over on Sporking News. He's the one that kind of pounded the drum to get to this. So I'm really happy that I'm into it. Really happy that I'm enjoying it. And if you do, let me know. I know they started season 2, so I got some catching up to do, but I assure you I will be catching up rather quickly. Hopefully within a week or so, you'll be seeing reviews and that kind of thing start dropping more regularly. I appreciate your time, and I'm Pops.